Gender-based violence is violence against an individual, be it male or female, according to their gender norms or stereotypes, and according to their sexual orientation or sex in society.
What I've seen is basically male abusing female under the influence or just through anger or kind of situation, relationship situation.
For me, it's men and boys harming females, women and girls.
It comes out the same way as the men versus girls, but people really take on the girls versus boys in a particular way.
Why?
Yes, I don't know. Maybe because men stronger than girls and I can take more lash than girls.
You think that fair?
No, miss.
So when you had to talk about gender, you had to talk about, and in terms of what is gender-based violence and how does gender-based violence affect the family, or how does it affect the home, how does it affect the community, how it affects family life. It's a whole embroidery of everything what it is about. So in terms of male models or male person being in a home or being in a society where there is some form of violence, you had to ask yourself, how is it affecting that person from childhood to eventually going to be fatherhood, or to be a person who working in an office, or persons working on the streets and those things. So what happens in the home could also be a reflection of what is happening in society.
Yeah, normally your parents will beat you, and that don't really work. That will just get you how that, all right, say somebody lashed me, I have to beat them. So that your parents will be like, if you lash somebody and you come home, you're getting licks, right? So you can be like, all right, so my children fight, I have to beat them when they come home. Licks don't work. Leave them and don't give them too much freedom, man. Talk to them. Because licks now is more abuse, because they get licks now, it messes with their mental and everything. So everything your parents do really affects you. So violence in the household is very big in Tobago.
You all agree with him? You agree that licks don't work? You don't
Miss
agree?
Licks does work, eh?
It does work? Tell me how it does work.
Miss Licks is a form of punishment. When the children are giving trouble, they need it. Because when you talk to them, they will continue doing the same thing. Licks. They need licks.
But miss, sometimes you gotta do a minor thing, right, miss? And they gonna beat you real bad, miss. So miss, if it was me, miss, I might have go back and do the same thing, miss, and see if they gonna beat me the same way, miss.
Not to beat you bad, but beat you a normal.
Well, miss, some parents just overdo it with like sometimes, miss.
In certain circumstances and situations, if they do something wrong, well, they deserve it. But sometimes the mothers and them just overdo it. Minor things I want to beat them for. Breaking something by mistake. Mothers don't want to beat the child for that. You see, if they're doing wrong things in school, like smoking and gambling and the chin classes, well, that understood, right? You could beat them. You know, well, I do, on the whole, I do like beating, right? You just find like something bad.
As a young boy, that's how your parents grew up. And they might teach you how not to lash girls as boys, no? Teach you not to lash girls and things. So when they grow up, they could do the same thing.
Miss Tough Love is like, you love them to an extent, but if they give in trouble, you have to punish them.
It's all what we're taught and what we believe in. And growing up, it's what we decide to do and how we decide to channel it. Because it's our natural instinct to either fight or flight, run or fight. And men, we choose to fight instead. Because we feel entitled, or we feel we don't know how to deal with being afraid or fearful of whatever. So we always resort to licks and violence, or we resort to some form of aggressive behavior, whether it's a curse out, lash out, or whatever.
Do you all think that men are naturally abusive and violent?
Naturally abusive, no.
I think it depends.
I don't think it's our nature to do it.
It's our nature to fight.
Yeah.
It's our nature to defend.
To protect, yes, to defend and protect.
It's violent. I think violence is taught.
Yes.
The Bible and all tells us train a child in the way he should go. So when he's old, he will stray. So, for example, if your son comes home from school and he tells you, "Mommy, there's this boy in school that beating me up," you as a mother would tell the child, hit him back when you go to school.
Hit him back.
And most parents can attest to that. You tell the boy, you are a big, strong boy, you can't allow the boy to beat you up. When you go to school, hit him back. And these are the little things that we teach our sons. The little seeds of violence that we plant into them. And then when they get older, you don't recognize that you as the parent would have planted that seed.
So instead of saying hit him back, you're all a men. What kind of mother or father say to the child?
That is where we allow the young man the space or the avenue or start teaching him that it's okay to talk. It's okay to share your feelings. School have counselors, whether guidance counselors or therapists or whatever. You as a parent could sit down with your young man and talk to him, provide that opportunity, because you don't want to close that door at that early age, because when you close that door, when you shut that side of him out, all he knows is hit me back, and that's going to be his answer all the time. Unless he decides when he reaches teenage or adulthood, he's taught something different and decides to do differently. Other than that, that's what he's going to go with.
So you don't want your parents to argue?
Miss, I don't mind my daddy.
I don't mind my daddy,
but otherwise than my daddy.
Yeah.
Brother or somebody else.
So just a family?
Yeah.
You don't mind?
But not all of my family.
Not all of
Say if your brother gone to the next country and he come back, you ain't see your brother in years, and he come back, you're not gonna hug him.
Yeah.
So it depends on the relationship you have with the person. Yeah. Okay, fair enough. But hugging is a good thing for boys.
Yeah.
You don't think so?
Depends,
Certain people.
Legit hugs, not hugs from people who are abusive. When I talking about hugs in this case, I mean like legit showing love to you.
Yeah.
Yes, it's okay. Okay. What are some of the other ways boys, as young men, you think that adults could show love outside of their parents? Say like you're still here. Could show love to you.
Miss care about you. Keep eye on your supervisor.
Respect, yeah.
Watching after you.
When you say respect, what do you mean?
Well,
we respect you.
Yeah, it should the same equal respect.
And they say give you trouble in your school, they try to pull you aside and talk to you about it, try to help you about it.
Trying to motivate you.
What's a way that an adult could disrespect you? Somebody outside of your house. Some like strangers.
So like, we talk about your parents or something like that.
But disrespect you. For now, don't think about somebody
Miss
outside.
Bringing you down too.
Yeah.
When you say bringing you down,
here. And they said that. Yeah.
how does that make you feel if somebody tell you that?
Besides, God bless you.
Miss, I just give it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I just wonder if when them was younger,
People did them that.
tell them that, so them had the mentality, them gotta come back and gotta tell somebody.
Miss, especially if I don't really know the person and he tell me that, I'll get aggressive. But if I know you from a long time and I know you on jokes and everything, miss, I'll be normal.
What if a female tell you that you don't know? What if I just saw you, we having this conversation and I told you something like that? How would that make you feel?
It's gonna make me feel bad.
But miss, sometimes, miss, if you come and tell me that, miss, I'll be like, boy, I know that. Yeah, and finish it off right there, miss.
Why?
Because miss, you know you will make it, miss. And if somebody tell you ain't gonna make it, miss, what I do just say, yeah, alright. And at the end of the day, miss, you know you're going to make it.
They're confident in themselves.
So just forget what that person say, miss, and move on.
What if it makes you feel bad?
Miss,
them bring it up.
you don't just like get here too much, miss.
Well, it have its ups and downs, as in terms of growing up. They have our sisters, and growing up, we've been taught different in a sense. Well, we as boys, I always had my own way, in a sense. Guided little, but not as much as my sister.
For me, it's like we sort of, in terms of starting from bringing young men up, from children into manhood, childhood, teenage, manhood. It's like we sort of lost. It's like we don't know exactly what my boy child is supposed to be or what a man's supposed to be. Because we talk a lot about father figures in Tobago in particular, but what really is a father figure? How do we define that, and how do we put that into a young boy's life, you know? And it's like, as Papa said, we are trained differently, we're taught differently. Sometimes it's so confusing. It's like, are we supposed to cry? We're not supposed to cry. And it's like, if you talk to young men in Tobago, it's like, we are all confused about what we're supposed to be, who we're supposed to be. So in Tobago, for me, it's sort of like a confusion still. What is a man?
Well, I have to agree with Colin, because growing up in Tobago, as a young man, you are taught you're a big man, you're not supposed to cry. And then you recognize as you get older, most men have communication issues, because we are not taught to talk and share emotions. We are taught to hold them in, be a man, suck it up, because that is what a man is supposed to do. That is the societal standards that are set for us as men growing up.
A lot of young men are crying out for fathers, right? There's no father figure in the home, and there's no perfect example of father, that male image or male mentor in the home environment or in the community environment as such. What you're seeing as well in terms of the abuse or the gender-based violence abuse or those things is that you have young men being prey to older men, right? And it may seem very taboo in that sense, but because of the environment of the home, the home might be a form of poverty where the mother can't provide for the home or the father can't. So they go out looking for that kind of solace in terms of how can I get money or avenues. And most times persons would think the easier way to get things like that is through selling yourself, and again, you may have persons in the space that were willing to pay young men for sexual favors, and then therefore, but they would not consider themselves as being labeled as gay or bisexual or whatever. It is just that what they're doing as a survival mode. Some of them may see they go in with older women, right? And older women will not just see them as their son, but they will also see them as their boy toy, as you want to put it, in the sense of thing. Because they will say, I'm lonely, and then therefore, they see that as a thing. And boys will see that as a privilege, because they're seeing experience, they're seeing money come in, they're seeing different things that they can get in terms of their favors.
Well, I guess you get into a relationship convenient sometimes. For example, the woman is in a better financial state than you. So you get into the relationship, she's supporting you, and then you realize, okay, she doesn't cook, she doesn't clean, all right, there's nothing else besides the finances. Or you get into a relationship for sex, and then you realize, okay, besides sex, there's nothing else, there's no functionality. But as a man, like for example, how I grew up with both of my parents, as I said before. So I saw my father cooking, cleaning and washing. My mother cooked, clean and wash. Both of them worked. Both of them sat together and discussed their finances and discussed how they would build and move forward together. So, as I said, human beings are creatures who learn from what they see. So I would have learned that. So when I get married, I would sit and discuss my finances with my wife. Sit and discuss how we're going to build together. The problem in society now is that we are so short-sighted, because yes, we want to get married. Well, I mean, no. Most people want to have a wedding. They don't want to be married. So we start there. But yes, you want to get married. But after marriage, what? What is the plan? Do we build together? Do we just exist? No, marriage is a partnership. For me, marriage is a partnership. This person's supposed to make you a better person, supposed to add something to your life. The question you ask, if it's fair, yes, it is fair for a man, for it to be the man's responsibility to provide. And I agree to that. But it's also fair for the woman to provide.
Men still need the same values that women have long time.
Exactly.
We still look for the caring, soft touch, we still look for the love up. Even though we's man, we still want a little love up and attention, Even though we're not allowed to talk in public spaces, we should be able to talk with you, and if we talk with you, you're not to judge us. And a lot of girlfriends, wives do that. They still judge their husband, they open up and boom. You know, it's like, shut up. You know, the men still want those values, you know.
I think a man really wants from his woman support.
Support.
For example, I come to you with a business idea, and you know I sit and you listen to me and you give me your opinion, or you are supposed to be the safe haven for me.
Okay.
Yes, when I leave the house, I'm this big strong man. When I come home, this is the environment in which I could, you know, break down or be rebuilt, and go back again to face society. When I come home, most men don't want to go home in the society that we live in. They realize they go to rum shops, they're gonna meet their partners. That's because they have
They have that comfort at home.
It's not comfortable at home for most men. Like you go home and there's bickering and quarreling and nagging. You go to work and there's bickering and quarreling and nagging. You go to the rum shop and you have a nice communion where people understand your struggles.
Drinking friends, you know.
So Raphael said communication. Explain communication. What does communication mean for men?
Communicating with my partner could also bring, less confusion.
As a female, how does it feel being in charge of a group of young men, basically?
It's challenging because boys are different and they more aggressive and they speak out more than ladies. So when you present an idea and you think that it's all well and good, they challenge you with the idea. So that's why I say it's really challenging. And then to motivate them, because boys are not really involved in a lot of activities. So to try to motivate them is another challenge, right? So normally most guys like food, most guys like sports. So I try to incorporate the both elements as much as possible to get them out. They're exposed to a lot of drugs. Our community is known for thieving. Then due to the drugs, you'll have a lot of fighting as well. So we have a bad stigma, a really, really bad stigma, especially for young boys. And then the minute you see a young boy drops out of school, you know for instant he's going to do drugs. I play football as well with them. I go to the beach with them. You know, I sell food if we need money for some event. I raise funds with them. So I'm basically involved in their life. I go to their school if I have to and check on their teachers to make sure that they're doing well. So they tend to hide from me a lot when they see me on the school compound. But I always go and check on them. So I get myself involved, not only when I need them for activities, but their personal life, I get involved in their personal life. I think they need to be more loving and yes, pay attention to boys. Because I have a son, so it's like an experiment as well, because you know you're trying to figure out what they want and what they will do. But then you realize the more attention boys get, the more respect. And then if you expose them to different activities, then they don't have time for idle hands. They don't have time for idle work. They don't have time for the drugs. Just keep exposing them to different environments, different things. I realize that a lot of young men love to cook, but you know the generation back then tend to say men are not to cook. So if you get them involved in a little cooking, a little art and craft, or swimming, something, you try to figure out what they like. So you expose them to a lot of activities, and as they get older, they pick the ones that they like and they stick with it. And I try to implement the education aspect to them. Like before, I used to take 2 young boys to the beach, and I'll have them write 2 sentences on the stand. And every time we go back, every week, I increase the amount of sentences that I want. And then we turn it into a paragraph, then we turn it into an essay. So we look at the environment and you write 2 sentences. You keep writing and you add to it. So you have to take something fun and put it into like a learning aspect for them, because boys tend to learn differently.
My name is Sean Benoit. I'm a member of JCI Tobago, that's Junior Chamber International. What we do as people, it's easy. From a distance, everything looks easy. You know what I mean? So, you know, it allowed me to actually know people who are 12 to 17 and really get to see what exactly they are going through, so that could lead to certain things and how they think and so forth. So, well, all that to say, part of the it's eye opening for me, but I kind of went in to learn because I really didn't know. Because I remember once you were talking about like where you see yourself in the next 5 years, 10 years or something, and then in some way that led to something that was more spiritual. And in our growing up, in my growing up, that was just understood, you know, and it wasn't like that in some instances with the guys as well too. So I was that was a bit eye-opening for me and the mentors that we did have in at that point in time, where, you know, it seemed as though there was no I would say no spiritual connectivity. We don't want them to go on the block. You know what I mean? And what I think this helps with is that we're not glorifying the block. And I could see that, remember, as somebody who was in their shoes, and I was even telling them, I remember when I was in 5th form, how some of the guys just gave up in, like, you know, January time, you know what I mean, after the first term and stuff, and then they just started smoking and that type of stuff, and you know, it was just kind of like a downward spiral from there. You know, we don't want that to happen, so we want to just keep the encouragement.